False peace. Opening scene. Suburban tranquility. Describe a quiet morning in a Midwest American suburb. Tree-lined streets, manicured lawns, neighbors waving to one another. John, early 40s, carries his mug of coffee onto the porch, watching his two kids chase each other on the grass while his wife Julia prepares breakfast inside. The air is filled with ordinary happiness and routine. John's inner perspective. John reflects on how far they've come, from their difficult immigrant beginnings to now owning a comfortable home. He feels proud, but also quietly vigilant, always pushing himself to protect his family's new life. Family dynamics. Introduce Julia as supportive but practical. She handles the kids' school schedules and worries about their fitting in. Show the children, a teenage daughter, Emily, assertive yet sensitive, and a younger son, Max, inquisitive and energetic, bickering endearingly at the breakfast table. The work environment. John drives to work in his modest sedan, thinking about his managerial job at a local logistics company. He shares camaraderie and genuine trust with his boss and longtime friend Mark, who once helped him get the job when starting out in America. Their relationship is a mix of friendly banter and mutual respect. The company itself has a family-like atmosphere. John feels at home there, and employees greet him warmly. Hints of foreshadowing. Sow the earliest seeds of unease. John notices a stack of unpaid bills on Julia's desk and makes a mental note to talk tonight. A brief mention of a policy change at work, small, seemingly insignificant, but drawing a fleeting line of worry across John's face. Mark invites John for drinks after work, and their conversation is relaxed. Yet there's the tiniest flicker of guardedness in Mark's eyes John can't quite name. Community and belonging. Highlight their efforts to integrate. John stops at the corner store, chats about Little League baseball with a neighbor, picks up a flyer for a local barbecue. Show the family at ease, feeling they've finally found their place, though John occasionally senses that their roots here are still tentative. Closing the day. Evening comes. The family gathers for dinner, him off, promising they'll talk later. At the table, Emily is terse and distant, hiding her phone under her plate. Max asks if everything is okay with Dad. The warmth of their family routine now seems laced with tension. Tension at the office. At work, John notices a subtle change in the air. The weekly meeting is unusually formal. Mark, his old friend, barely meets his eyes. There's an inside joke John doesn't get, some quick glances between colleagues. The company's finance officer, Linda, hands John a confusing spreadsheet, double-checking his signature. Paperwork seems to pile up faster. New procedures are quietly introduced, making John feel unexpectedly scrutinized in his own workplace. Doubt and isolation. After work, Mark declines John's offer to grab a drink, mumbling about catching up on things. John watches his friend hurry out, carrying an overstuffed briefcase. When John asks Linda about some irregular entries he spotted, she grows evasive, suggesting he clear it with Mark. Trouble brewing at home. Back home, Julia reveals she's been called into a parent-teacher conference. Emily's grades are slipping. She's become withdrawn. Julia and John quarrel quietly but intensely, each blaming external pressures, but unable to share their deeper worries with each other. John's restlessness. That night, John can't sleep. He lies awake, listening to the silence of the house, troubled by a faint sense of being boxed in. At work, at home, everywhere. Seeds of unease. He recalls Mark's fleeting look of guilt, The odd glances from coworkers, the stack of bills ignored on Julia's desk. John, always the provider, senses control slipping from his hands, but can't yet see what's cracking beneath the surface. The unnamed threat. The chapter closes with John staring out his bedroom window at the empty, silent street. Uneasy, uncertain, but determined not to let his family or himself become victims of forces he cannot yet name. The first fall. An ordinary start. The day begins like any other. Investigation, and must leave immediately. The walk of shame. John gathers his things from his desk, feeling the sidelong glances of coworkers. Someone whispers as he passes. The office, once a place of security, now feels hostile and foreign. Mark stands at his office door, watching but saying nothing. Community fallout. On the drive home, John's hands shake. He receives a text from Julia. "Call me, we need to talk." Gossip spreads quickly in their small town. As he stops for gas, an acquaintance looks away instead of greeting him. Home, not a refuge. At home, Julia is waiting, her expression a mix of shock, hurt, and disbelief. She demands an explanation. John tries to recount what happened, but his words seem feeble, even to himself. Emily listens from the stairs, wide-eyed and silent. Julia, worried about bills and scared for the family's future, voices her doubts for the first time. "How could this happen, John? Is there something you're not telling me?" Max, sensing the tension, withdraws into his room, alone with his thoughts. Late that night, John sits alone at the kitchen table. The hum of the refrigerator is the only sound. He replays the meeting, the metallic edge in Mark's voice, the evidence that didn't make sense. He feels the world closing in, his job lost, his reputation tarnished, and even his own family's trust slipping away. A shattered peace. The chapter closes with him gazing at his own reflection in the window, haunted by the magnitude of what's been lost. He wonders, not for the last time, if anything will ever be the same again. The first fall. The morning before the storm. John wakes under heavy gray light, disturbed by vague dreams. He watches Julia quietly. She is already up, moving through her morning routine with mechanical efficiency. Tension lingers between them, but he tries to shake it off for the children's sake. At breakfast, Emily barely looks up from her phone, and Max pokes at his cereal. The family's usual banter is absent, their words thin and forced. Awkward arrivals. At work, John senses unease. Passing through the office, he notices hushed conversations that stop when he draws near. Linda, usually chipper, mind races. He is blindsided, panicked. This isn't possible. There must be some kind of mistake. I'd never do this. Mark, you know me. But Mark's jaw is set. Protocols are clear. You're to be placed on administrative leave, effective immediately, while we investigate further. Public humiliation. John is escorted to his desk. The office is silent, heavy with curiosity and judgment. As he packs his things, someone whispers, "Did you hear what he did?" His friend of 10 years, now his judge, doesn't say a word as John wheels out his box of belongings under fluorescent lights. John's phone starts buzzing with calls he ignores, messages left unread. At the gas station, a neighbor who once shared beers with him turns away. That evening, the mailbox is stuffed with late payment notices. The small town's rumor mill hums, feeding off his downfall. Shattered home. At home, Julia is waiting in the living room, face drained and anxious. When John hesitantly explains, her hands tremble. "They have proof, John." What am I supposed to think? Her voice cracks, suspended between love and suspicion. Emily listens from the staircase, shoulders tense and wary. Max tries to interrupt, but Julia snaps at him. The conversation spirals. Credit cards already declined, bills unpaid. "How could you let this happen to us?" she cries. In the depths of night, John sits, shell-shocked, in the darkness long after Julia and the kids go to bed. He pores over his own memories, frantic for an answer. The fridge hums, the clock ticks, each sound amplifying the loneliness. His sense of reality fractures. Reflection. In the kitchen window, he glimpses his reflection, haggard, ashamed. He wonders if anyone will ever see him the way he was again, honest, loving, worthy of trust. He turns out the kitchen light, plunging the room into blackness, unsure how or if he'll ever climb back out of this hole. A house divide, a fragment of truth. One night, combing through late-night emails, John stumbles across a strange message in his work account, an attachment he doesn't remember opening, sent from Mark's address weeks before the accusations began. His heart pounds as he realizes it contains a program that could mimic login credentials. Could someone have planted evidence? Erosion of loyalty. John's faith in Mark, his oldest work friend, begins to corrode. He recalls odd moments. Mark changing the subject when conversations got too specific. Awkward silences in meetings. The calculated way Mark's eyes avoided his, right before John was accused. Subtle inquiries. John tentatively reaches out to Linda, the finance officer, under the pretext of returning a company binder. As they talk, she reveals, nervously, that Mark has been acting strangely, taking meetings behind closed doors, locking his office more frequently, seemingly stressed about the books. She seems scared, hinting that not everything is as it appears. The family cracks deeper. Julia finds John poring over work files and lashes out, frustrated. "You're obsessed with this. Why can't you just admit you messed up? We need you here, not chasing ghosts." The argument leaves both in tears, more isolated than ever. Realizing the frame. Late at night, in the glow of his old laptop, John lines up the digital breadcrumbs. Mark's secret email, the suspicious program, a string of transfers that only benefit one person. Anger and betrayal cut through his depression, fanning the first sparks of resolve. A new resolve. John stands at the window, fists clenched. He may be down, his life in ruins, abandoned by friends and doubted by family. But now he feels a powerful, silent determination. He can't prove it yet, but he's certain. Mark betrayed him. And he will find a way to expose the truth, no matter the cost. A flicker in the dark. A desperate search. Haunted by the evidence he's uncovered, John wakes before dawn, his mind racing. The house is silent except for the ticking clock and the far-off sound of rain.
At the diner, John lays out the evidence. Eric studies the files, brows knitting. He confirms what John suspected. The attachments could have spoofed logins, and the money trail points to tampering.
"You're being framed, John," Eric finally says, softly but with conviction. However, Eric warns him, pursuing this could be dangerous, especially if Mark is the culprit, as Mark has connections with higher-ups. The word dangerous lingers. Testing the boundaries, energized, John decides to push his luck further.
He stops by the company grounds, parked across the street, just to observe. He sees Mark meeting with the suited stranger, exchanging quick words before both disappear inside. Linda walks past, glancing over her shoulder, eyes clouded with worry. Reaching out at home. That night, John swallows his pride and attempts to open up to Julia, showing her his findings. I know you're angry. I'm asking you to trust me one more time. Julia is skeptical, hurt lingering in her voice, but as she reads the emails and traces the numbers, her expression slowly changes from anger to confusion and then to dawning suspicion. But if you're right, this is bigger than just a mistake, John. The next step. Determined not to be passive any longer, John and Eric set up a secure line of communication. Eric agrees to dig deeper, quietly checking on Mark's financials and searching for more intentional sabotage. He warns John, "Don't let them know you're on to them. They'll close ranks fast." A flicker of hope and danger. As the chapter closes, John feels the first real flicker of hope in a long time. The darkness isn't dispelled, but there's a light ahead, faint, fragile, but growing. Yet, as he heads to bed, he senses the risk escalating. Someone may realize he's fighting back. The final image, John gazes out the window into the rain-streaked night, feeling eyes on him from across the shadows. The net tightens, paranoia sets in. John wakes from a restless sleep, feeling watched. The house, normally his sanctuary, seems full of unseen eyes. Julia is anxious, and even Max is quieter, picking up on the tension. John checks his email, nothing from Eric. A red flag. When he starts his car, he pauses a moment, imagining it's been tampered with. A clandestine meeting in his dimly lit garage. He's nervous. His hands tremble as he tells John, "I found something really bad." Eric has detected unauthorized monitoring of his own laptop, likely planted after helping John. He barely managed to trace a remote login attempt to an IP address at John's former office. Eric urges caution. "They know you're digging. Stop, or they won't just ruin your name. They'll come after you, too." Threats. That night, an envelope is slid under John's front door. Inside is a single printout. A photo of John sitting with Eric at the diner, and a note, "Stay out of it." John's anger and fear mingle, but he hides the letter from Julia for now, afraid it will break her. A rift widens under the weight of fear and secrecy. Julia's patience thins. She suggests sending the kids to her sister's place until this blows over. John flinches but can't blame her. Even so, he feels more alone than ever. A risky move. Pushed to the edge, John decides to record their next steps for protection. He purchases a burner phone and encrypted hard drive, sharing a digital copy of all their evidence with Eric. Together they weigh going public versus waiting for more proof, debating whether to trust the police or the press. The trap closes in. Late that night, a police cruiser pulls to a stop outside, lights flashing briefly before turning off. John watches from the window, heart pounding. The chapter ends with John holding Julia's hand as she finally lets herself weep. They know now. The enemy isn't just unseen, it is closing in. Their only choice is to push forward. Spiraling despair. John scarcely sleeps, haunted by fear, guilt, and growing resentment. The house is quieter than ever. Emily and Max have gone to Julia's sister, their absence a fresh wound. Julia, exhausted and heartsick, moves wordlessly through her days, the emotional distance between her and John widening to a chasm. Alone, with only his thoughts, John obsesses the threat note. She breaks down, torn between anger and terror, but he begs for her belief, just this last time. The moment is raw, painful, and honest. The final straw. That evening, John returns to his car to find someone's broken into it. The glove box is rifled, and inside he discovers another threat. A crumpled photo of Julia and the kids, with a red X scrawled over it. Panic surges. This isn't just about him anymore. No way back. This threat forces John's hand. He realizes the only way out is to go public, no matter the risks. He and Eric arrange a secret meeting with a trusted local journalist, Rachel Chang, someone with nothing to lose and a reputation for exposing corruption. Racing against time. John and Eric pool the last of their digital evidence. Paranoia runs high. Every phone call is kept brief, every computer used once and discarded. Meanwhile, Eric warns that someone from their company is trying to hack into the files. The sense of a closing net is suffocating. Facing the consequences. Before leaving for the meeting, John and Julia have a final, heart-wrenching conversation. He promises to bring the truth into the open or die trying. Julia, weeping but resolute, finally says, "Do what you have to do. We'll be waiting for you on the other side." For the first time, there is a sliver of understanding and forgiveness. To the edge. The chapter ends as John, driven by desperation and love, steps out into the night. Rain pours down, mirroring the chaos inside him. With only a thumb drive of hope and the knowledge that he has nothing left to lose, he heads toward the meeting that could redeem him, or destroy him for good. Into the light, a night wrapped in fear. John drives across town, hands shaking on the steering wheel. The city is muffled under rain and neon. He checks his rearview mirror at every turn, certain he's being followed. He clutches the flash drive like a talisman. Each streetlight feels like a checkpoint, every passing car a potential threat. The meeting place. He arrives at the agreed spot, a shuttered newspaper office Rachel uses after hours. It's dark, except confrontation in the shadows. Suddenly, footsteps echo in the hallway. The door shutters. Someone is trying to force it. Rachel whispers, "Back exit, now!" John, Eric, and Rachel scramble through the maze of file boxes and out into the rain-soaked alley. Behind them, a pair of men in suits tries to push through, but Eric slams the fire door shut, buying them precious seconds. The first light of justice, Rachel drives them to the broadcast station, phoning trusted colleagues along the way. "I need this on the 11 o'clock news." John, huddled in the back seat, begins to realize the scope of the story. They're not just clearing his name, but exposing a web of corporate corruption. Going public. Rachel's team moves fast, piecing together an exposé. John and Eric, visibly exhausted, give on-camera statements. For once, John feels unafraid. Years of frustration and powerlessness sharpen his words with conviction. Rachel promises the story will air in less than an hour. As the segment is about to broadcast, Julia calls John. Her voice shakes, but is full of hope. "People are already talking. Someone from the station called asking for a family photo. We're proud of you. Just come home." The wave breaks. The exposé airs. Screens across the city flicker as evidence and interviews take center stage. Mark's name is mentioned. The local police announce an immediate investigation. John's phone buzzes non-stop. Reporters, neighbors, old friends. For the first time, suspicion is aimed at the real villain. Aftermath and exhaustion. As dawn stretches over the city, John stands outside the station, soaked but no longer shaking.
Rachel places a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Eric, half smiling, simply says, "You did it, man." John is too tired to cry, but relief radiates through every bone. Heading home. The final scene. John drives through early sunlight toward home, the same roads that once felt like traps now opening before him. He doesn't know what comes next. Investigations, more headlines, a long path to forgiveness.
Hesitantly, voices carry sadness and relief intertwined. There are apologies, but trust is fragile, rebuilt, one gesture at a time. Pod, John's face is everywhere, applauded in editorials and dissected on talk radio. He receives cards from strangers, but also angry letters from Mark's defenders. The neighborhood, once hostile, greets him now with awkward respect. John feels grateful, but unmoored by his sudden fame, finding solace only in small private moments. Pibe, revisiting old places. He walks past the company lot, now patrolled by security guards. Rooms that once held memories now feel hollow. John meets with Linda to thank her for her courage. They share coffee, the conversation finally easy, two survivors facing the same past. Pimed, lingering shadows. Though Mark has been unmasked, scars linger. At night, John still wakes sweating, heart racing from old dreams of betrayal. The family keeps the curtains drawn. John hesitates before answering every phone call, still wary of echoes from the dark days. Steps toward redemption. John consults with his lawyer about possible compensation and considers suing the company for wrongful termination. Eric helps him find freelance work, small tasks, paying little but restoring a sense of purpose. John and Julia attend couples counseling, scripting new beginnings for their family. Power of truth. A local school invites John to speak about honesty and resilience. He nearly turns them down, afraid to be vulnerable. But at the podium, facing a sea of young faces, John speaks candidly about mistakes, perseverance, and the quiet power of believing in yourself, even when no one else will. The applause feels warm, healing. Bittersweet peace. Spring comes. The world is not healed. Wounds run deep, both public and private, but the future feels possible. Julia and John sit together on the porch, watching Max kick a ball through wet grass. Emily laughs indoors. They are changed people, battered but not broken, learning each day how to live forward. A quiet morning. Sunlight streams through the kitchen window as John sips coffee, the house humming gently with the sounds of family. The old tension is gone, replaced by a hard-earned peace, delicate but real. Julia chats with Max as he crunches and gentle teasing, the kind that comes with deep understanding. Counseling continues, and they build real trust one small act at a time. The kids find their way. Max's nightmares fade. He joins a youth soccer league. Emily, more talkative, makes friends and takes up painting. The house fills with new art and noise, signs of resilience and cautious optimism returning. John takes special joy in helping with homework, reading bedtime stories, and making pancakes Sunday mornings. Relationships rekindled. Eric visits often, sometimes for advice, sometimes just for a beer. Linda, recently promoted after cooperating in the investigation, reaches out occasionally. The knot of shame and betrayal that once defined John's friendships begins to loosen. Loneliness fades. Facing forward. There are still setbacks, mornings when John wakes fearing the past will catch up. The scars aren't invisible. But his family stands with him. Each day their bond proves stronger than what tried to break them. John finds strength in the simple act of showing up, of not hiding. Giving back.
John volunteers with a local mentorship group, helping job seekers and those falsely accused navigate their own challenges. Each story reminds him of how close he came to losing everything, and how much a helping hand can mean. Seeds of Hope. John and Julia plant a small garden in the backyard, herbs, tomatoes, and a single young oak tree. Digging in the rich earth with their children, they imagine the roots growing deep, anchoring them to this reclaimed present and hopeful future. Looking ahead. On the chapter's last evening, the family gathers in the yard, watching fireflies blink under a quiet sky. John savors this hard-won peace. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but tonight is theirs, proof that even the deepest darkness can yield to light, and endings can be beginnings in disguise. Full circle. An anniversary of change. Nearly 1 year after Mark's arrest, John awakens to sunrise spilling over the trees behind his house. He pauses in Eric, Linda, and Rachel, the journalist. They swap tales, less about the scandal, more about life after. New jobs, family ups and downs, plans for the future. They toast to truth, the price it demands, and the doors it opens. Laughter fills the twilight, friendship renewed in the light of shared trial. The family heals. Max brings home a school certificate, most improved, and John fights tears. Emily helps plant wildflowers alongside last year's oak sapling, their roots entwined in the same soil. The home, once marked by suspicion and fear, is now a sanctuary again. Moving beyond victimhood, John's story is now referenced in op-eds, case studies, and workshops. At first, this made him self-conscious. Now he accepts his role as a cautionary tale and a symbol of resilience. He mentors others, not out of bitterness, but in the hope that no one will have to walk his path unprepared. The world keeps turning. Seasons shift. The legal process winds down, and life resumes its steady pace. John sometimes visits his old workplace, not to haunt the past, but to marvel at how distant it feels. He sees new faces in old windows and feels a twinge of peace. Lessons learned. Alone, on a quiet evening, John journals, capturing the lessons that came at so high a cost. He writes of trust, of the pain and necessity of truth, and of how life's cracks let the light in. He writes for himself, for Julia, for his children, who may someday need to understand. The promise of tomorrow. Under the stars, Julia curls beside him on the porch swing. Max and Emily argue quietly about a game in the background. John closes his eyes, inhaling the scent of summer grass, heart full. He doesn't know what the future holds, but now, whatever comes, he's certain. They'll face it together. Epilogue. The long tomorrow. The passing of years. Time rolls forward. The scandal that once shook John's world is now a distant memory for most. Mark is serving his sentence. The company has restructured, and the city's headlines have long moved on. John, now with flecks of gray at his temple, flourishes, with former mentees reaching new heights and giving back in their own ways. He writes occasional columns about resilience, inspiring strangers beyond his own town. Eric and Linda's new chapters. Eric moves to another city, starting a business and visiting John's family on holidays, still a loyal friend. Linda leads financial ethics seminars, her courage under fire, remembered by students and colleagues alike. Healing rituals. Each anniversary, John's family plants a new sapling in the backyard, a living testament to survival and hope.
The garden is a riot of green, herbs, wildflowers, and the now mature oak tree offering shade for laughter and quiet reflection alike. Looking back with grace. On early mornings, John sometimes rereads his old journal entries, surprised by how far he's come. The sharp ache of old betrayals is gone, replaced by gratitude for those who stood by him and the lessons contained within every scar. Embracing the future. The novel closes on a golden afternoon. John, Julia, Max, and Emily gather in their backyard, sunlight streaming through the leaves. They picnic, tell stories, and dream aloud together about college, travel, building a treehouse, all the tiny joys and milestones to come. John stands, breathing in the warm breeze, and realizes that while life's storms may always arrive, he and his family now face them grounded, ready for whatever awaits beyond the long tomorrow.